Martin Sellers, Dean of the School of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences here at Lincoln Memorial University. I'm honored today to have our guest, Dr. Richard Vogel, who is the preeminent professor of communication and media here at Lincoln Memorial University. Rick has been here for a number of years, has run the program, seen many changes according to the needs of how media has changed over the years. It's a fascinating area, fascinating subject. Here we are in a time of many discussions, things like fake news and presidential elections, all coming to us through media. So Rick has a very tough job and a very envious job for all of us who instruct here at Lincoln Memorial University. Dr. Vogel, can you, thank you for being here, by the way.
Thank you.
And tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from and some of your background.
I'm a transplanted New Yorker, born and raised in upstate New York, then moved to Yonkers, right next to New York City. Did my undergraduate in upstate New York. Then in my mid-20s, moved to Carbondale, Illinois, southern Illinois, nowhere near Chicago, I learned, to go for my master's degree. Then went on to my PhD in Tennessee, all along the way working as a writer, director, producer of various videos, being a speechwriter for some candidates, and doing some other communication-related work as the opportunities came up. It was fun teaching because I only had to take the jobs I wanted. So I did freelance work all along, but if it was something that meant something to me or paid really well, those are my criteria for taking a job.
I appreciate that myself. Southern Illinois, that's the land of the Salukis, right?
Which I learned was an Egyptian racing dog.
Is that
I never knew that till I
was about to ask you because I didn't know until just now. I appreciate that. Tell us about the communication and media program, which, by the way, has up until now been MCOM. We changed the name. Tell us about the program itself. What does it include?
It's a program that evolved. When I came here, it's called broadcast communication. One of the first things we ever talked about was changing it because broadcasting is too limited. Media is expanding. Broadcasting covers, radio and television, and cable, traditional media. But 8 years ago, when I got here, we could already see the dramatic changes happening, the additions of social media and other places to get our content. To call it broadcasting is antiquated. The field of media keeps growing. Some of the things stay the same, how to frame a good camera shot, how to edit well, the need for good audio. These things don't change, but where students can put their work, where you and I can put our work, keeps evolving. And the different abilities of each medium to present our content in different ways. You look at a lot of social media content now, it's kind of eliminating words and more like putting up pictures. Learning how to adapt to changing social media is a big part of the field also.
I notice in talking to some of your students, they are completely involved in the program. They love the program. What's the draw for a program like this at the LMU?
Well, like no other generation before, they're able to take what skill sets they get and utilize them to create content. I just talked to a student now who is creating a movie. We had students along the way creating a bunch of different content. Over the years, wherever I've been, students are able to make content, but like never before, they can show their content and get instant gratification from it, get feedback from it. When you and I went to college, there weren't many places to put our words, whether they're print, video, whatever it was. Now they can instantly share it. And there are a lot of opportunities for them to gain jobs for that. They could work to, it's not only working for radio, television, so many corporations have a media program, a media department. So the job opportunities grow, but again, I think it's exciting for them to be able to show their media whenever they want. I have students who are known for their really creative TikToks. Well, that didn't exist not too long ago, and now there are people whose content they want to see.
One of the things I appreciate about the program is it combines both theory and practice in a very real way, and I think it's tangible enough where students see that, and they, as you say, they can take that with them very quickly, apply it, and then be in the world around them and be employed pretty quickly. I wanted to ask you too, though, I saw in your resume and in the information about you that you were awarded a Fulbright scholarship and you were able to go to Thailand and, as you said, spread the word about media literacy. What is media literacy? What does that mean to students? And tell us about your Thailand experience.
Media literacy is the ability to access, critically evaluate, and produce content. I always make sure I have my definition near me. But like the idea, we get a lot of media thrown at us constantly, and we need to know the difference between valid information and invalid, between fake news and actual events that occurred. And media literacy teaches all of us, from all ages, how to access and evaluate content to make sure it is factual, beneficial. You know, there's nothing wrong with a show that just makes us laugh, of course. But when people are trying to inform us, what are their intents? What are what's their ethics? Yeah. And now that we have so many media, back when I was a kid, we had CBS, we had Walter Cronkite, we had these anchors that were legendary. Yeah. We knew if they spoke, it was the truth. We don't know that anymore when we view media from anybody.
Yeah. What's that like in Thailand, though? I mean, they didn't have Walter Cronkite and that kind of thing.
No, they are.
How do they?
They are decades behind us in many ways, from an aesthetic point of view, and journalistically. While they have their version of a First Amendment, they don't truly have freedom of speech to the extent that we do. They're not allowed to criticize government, but they still have a lot of content coming at them. My idea was to provide a media literacy curriculum for their kindergarten to 12th grade. Because it can, and same in America, it can and should start in kindergarten and keep growing.
Is it changing in places like Thailand and Southeast Asia?
No, it's not. They
they brought you there, so it must be changing somewhat.
No, I worked at it, and actually the most receptive audience I had was in Myanmar and Malaysia. Okay. I also talked about it in China, and I don't know if anything will happen there. Slowly, they're talking about media literacy education in China, not because of me, but on their own. But in Malaysia, they had a new president take over who was much more open-minded, and their Ministry of Education asked me to teach them about it. Nice. They usually give people 10 minutes. They gave me 45, so wow. I could tell they were interested.
Yeah.
It was fun.
That reminds me, too, our program, Broadcast Journalism and MCOM and now CAM, we're looking to develop a pro-com or professional communication concentration. Why are we thinking about development and how does it differ from the media communication concentration? Media communication,
Dr. G teaches a broad range of skill sets, and I teach audio production too, but he teaches all the production. These are important skills, obviously, that a lot of our students have gone on to have really good careers with. Professional communication is for people who may not want to delve in the technical as much, but more into content creation. The idea of a pro-com major is that that person would leave here being able to articulate what they want in a creative production, but they would know how to create the message. Writing a message, hitting a target audience with a targeted message, that's what I want the graduates of that program to have. Hopefully they work with our media communication side, the production side, together. They could start a company by Tuesday.
Well, Tuesday's pretty soon. Will they be able to, students in that concentration, also learn some of the application side as well? Will they?
Professional communication still includes a number of production courses. The idea is I want them to be able to articulate and have enough technical skills to articulate, I want this effect, I want this edit, I want this camera work, these graphics, this font. They could be able to articulate it. They may not have the developed skill sets, but they'll have the knowledge to be able to say, here's what we need, here's what I need to create this effect to reach this audience.
I see. What kind of jobs would do students look forward to when they leave our program here? I know we talked earlier about it's not just standing behind a camera any longer or behind the audio, but what's the broad length of this that they can look forward to?
For the new program? Mm-hmm. For the new program, so many corporations of all sorts all over America need media people to record, create, produce content for public relations, for internal promotion and marketing, for external communication. It used to be my students would work in radio and television. Now they're working at a range of corporate facilities, which some of them have really good tools to use. So our students are by far not limited to working for traditional radio and television. My students in the past around the country are working sometimes traditional media, but many times for a corporation. It could be producing hot dogs or bagpipes, but they're producing content to promote it.
And it could be a government organization as well.
None of them are actually doing bagpipes, but yes,
But-
it could
but
be a
bagpipes.
government organization.
Sorry, I missed that. I wanted to ask you also in terms of teaching. It's always interested me that professors have to, they walk sort of a fine line in that you have values, obviously, and biases and judgments and so on that you carry through experiences, I should say. And yet you have to teach these courses where you are able to get students to understand content and theory. And using the presidential election that we just went through as an example, how do you get the students to learn all sides of an issue without your own values somehow trumping all of that?
No pun intended. I probably fail sometimes, and my students will tell you, but I try to bring both sides to the story. With the elections for the last 2 years, 3, or however long it's gone on for several decades, it seems like. There are clearly 2 sides to it, and I always let the students know I'm not the keeper of truth. Here's what I read, and students will bring me what they read. Sometimes I'll challenge them, where did they get the information from? I want them to think, is it a valid source? Quite often students will bring me information I don't know. So I hope they know that I want to hear both sides. I tell them I'm smarter when I learn from them. Whoever teaches me something, great, I've grown from that. And I hope they know I don't care what they vote for, I want them to vote. And in the classroom, even if they perceive my bias, it doesn't mean I'm right. I never claim to have the truth. I have a point of view, as we all do. I want them to hear both sides and have an informed opinion. That's always my goal, and I hope that's what they get.
I think they try, but I notice in the courses that that a lot of us teach, we extol the virtues of reading newspapers of different, where the content comes from different levels of value, or looking at different kinds of media. And then I ask the students, does that make sense to you? And they say, I don't have any time. I'm an athlete. I can't read even one paper. I expect me. And I say, well, use Google News. It's on your phone. I don't even have time to do that. It's more difficult today when we know we have to look at a wide variety of information than it was years ago when you didn't have to. And today we have less time to do so. So we're really up against kind of a brick wall. Let me go to one other subject though that you and I have talked about a number of times, and that's the idea of fake news. What I've thought about quite a bit, as you have, is that our media, in the larger sense, has been accused of providing fake news. Okay, however, and you can define that in a moment, but in that suggestion that that's the case, it turns off a lot of people. It turns people off from listening to other media that they probably would have gotten information from because they already think it's fake news. How do we deal with that?
Media literacy, starting with in kindergarten, for example, now going through the whole curriculum, in kindergarten we start teaching kids what's real and not real, what's fiction from fact. And then by teaching fiction, we teach what's fake and what's real. And then we continue that education step by step. When they get to high school and college, they have a very well-developed sense of real, not real, valid, and invalid. As for today, it would be hard to do retroactive media education. It's media literacy education. But part of going to fake news, for example, well, for one thing, defining media. We equate bloggers with CBS and CNN and NPR and PBS. That's a basic problem.
I'm hoping that the idea of media literacy does, in fact, filtrate down to the younger people, because it's they who are watching their parents and watching others. So I want to thank you for all this great information. I'm still biased and have my own values, but I still am thinking broadly. If I could just get to those other newspapers. Thank you an awful lot, Dr. Vogel, for your input and for all you do for Lincoln Memorial University. I appreciate working with you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.